Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Welcome to our regularly scheduled Commissioners meeting for Monday, March 11th, 2024 of the Haverford Township Board of Commissioners. Mr. Berman, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Gondek.
Present.
Commissioner Forresty-Grubb.
Here.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Here.
Commissioner Cavender.
Here.
Commissioner Quinn.
Here.
Commissioner Hart is absent. Commissioner Wexler. I'm sorry, Commissioner McCollum. Forgive me. Sorry, Mike.
Do I look that old? McCollum. Here, present.
Nice.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Here.
Commissioner Holmes.
Here. Chief? Before we move to our agenda, I just will announce that we did meet in executive session on two issues, personnel and a legal matter, at 6:15 today. We now move to our agenda. The first item on our agenda is involves the hiring of a Haverford Township police, a member of the police department.
And I'm actually here in my role as president of the Civil Service Commission.
Here.
On Monday, September 11th, 2023, this board formally approved the list of entry-level police officers eligible to be hired by the township. On behalf of the Civil Service Commission, I'm here to request the appointment of an entry-level police officer. We want to present the following candidates for consideration to be approved: Anthony de Blasius, Patrick Marley Jr., and Kevin Eckel.
Thank you, President Dawson. Do we have a motion?
I motion to appoint Patrick Marley Jr. as an entry-level Haverford Township police officer.
And I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any other motions? Hearing none. Mr. Berman, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Gondek.
Patrick Marley Jr.
Commissioner Forresty-Grubb.
Mr. Marley.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Patrick Marley Jr.
Commissioner Cavender.
Patrick Marley Jr.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Hart is absent. Commissioner McCollum.
Patrick Marley Jr.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Patrick Marley Jr.
Commissioner Holmes.
Patrick Marley Jr.
You do your speech, and I'll finish mine.
Thank you, Ken.
Chief?
So I'll start off tonight. His grandfather sitting to my left with the orange shirt on. We got hired at the same time, him in Upper Darby and me in Haverford Township. I'm still here and he's long gone, so.
But he's easier to spot than you, Chief.
All right, Patrick Marley Jr. Patrick is 22 years old and was born and raised in Springfield, Pennsylvania. He graduated from Archbishop Carroll High School in 2020, where he's a member of the baseball team and served as an assistant baseball coach after his graduation. Patrick graduated from Delaware County Police Academy in 2022. He also served as a patrolman. He is serving with a patrolman with the Prospect Park Police Department since 2023, and as of tonight, he's working for us. He will become the 391st officer to join the Haverford Township Police Department since 1916. Patrick, congratulations.
Thank you.
Sorry. On behalf of the Civil Service Commission, I would like to thank the Board of Commissioners. We're always pleased to provide this service both to the board as well as to the township. Thank you.
You are most welcome. Thank you. Should we move right on to proclamations? The next items on our agenda are two proclamations. Our first proclamation is for an Eagle Scout, Garrett Graham Gideon Hannebeck. If our Eagle Scout would come forward. Commissioner, do we want to turn this thing around? Commissioner Forsty Grupp will be presenting this proclamation.
Whereas the Board of Commissioners of the Township of Haverford, County of Delaware, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, takes great pleasure in acknowledging notable achievements of young adults in the community. And whereas the Board of Commissioners wish to applaud Garrett Graham Gideon Habeneck of the Boy Scouts of America for earning the rank of Eagle Scout. And whereas Garrett Graham Habeneck has earned the rank of Eagle Scout, Garrett resides in the 2nd Ward of Haverford Township. He started scouting as a Tiger Cub in Cub Scouts in the 1st grade in 2011. And whereas Garrett's Eagle Project involved replacing all of the top boards at the handicapped fishing pier at Ridley Creek State Park. He also laid 13,000 pounds of crushed stone on the handicapped picnic area. He did this by directing and leading his fellow scouts through the process. He did this by removing the old boards and measuring and cutting the new wood to fit and replace the area. He and his fellow scouts carried the crushed stone by buckets and then laid it out and raked it by hand. He was able to get Lowe's to donate all of the wood for the project and Galantino Supply Company to donate the stone. This demonstrated that he was able to work with his community to get the supplies he needed. And whereas Garrett continued up the ranks. Garrett is also a member of Brotherhood Order of the Arrow. He also served as a patrol leader and patrol scribe. Garrett has always showed an interest in helping others through scouting activities. Garrett's main interest is welding, which he took 4 years in a row at Scout Camp. Garrett then started Votech for welding and is currently completing his course in Votech. He did a welding internship in the summer of 2023 at M. Cohen & Sons in Broomall, PA. He is currently going to Votech 1 half day and working at Cohen & Sons half day. He also has a full-time position beginning in June 2024 upon graduation. And therefore, be it proclaimed by the Board of Commissioners of the Township of Haverford, County of Delaware, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, that said Board of Commissioners hereby acknowledges and congratulates you for your many contributions to your community with your long hours and dedicated work. Our blessings go with you as you face new challenges. Proclaimed this 11th day of March, 2024, Township of Haverford Board of Commissioners.
Did you get a picture? Oh, great. Excellent. Thank you and congratulations. Congratulations to your mom back there. We know that this is an endeavor that takes a lot of parental patience and guidance, as well as extraordinary work from the scout himself. So congratulations to you all. The next item on our agenda is another proclamation proclaiming Women's History Month. Commissioner Cavender.
Thank you. Proclamation for Women's History Month, 2024. Whereas each March, Women's History Month is a time to reflect on the substantial contributions of women in shaping the narrative of our nation and the world. And Whereas throughout the course of American history, women have articulated, strengthened, and fought for the values of equality, justice, and inclusivity, often without recognition or proper acknowledgement of their contributions. And whereas from the suffragettes who fought tirelessly for women's right to vote, to the trailblazers in science, arts, politics, and every field in between, women have been pivotal in pushing the boundaries of what is possible. And whereas it is essential to recognize the role of women from all walks of life, including those who have been historically marginalized and overlooked in the quest for a more equitable society. And whereas Women's History Month is not only a time to celebrate the achievements and breakthroughs of women past and present, but also a call to action to continue the work of ensuring gender equality and empowerment for all. And whereas the stories of women's courage, determination, and innovation serve as a beacon of inspiration for all people to aspire to higher ideals of humanity and mutual respect. And whereas it is the duty of every citizen, organization, and governmental body to recognize the contributions of women, to uplift their voices, and to work towards eliminating the barriers that women face in their pursuit of equality. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Board of Commissioners of the Township of Haverford, County of Delaware, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, recognize Women's History Month and acknowledge that fundamental freedoms are interconnected, that when women rise, we all rise together. Proclaim this 11th day of March, 2024.
Thank you, Commissioner Cavender. The next item on our agenda is our Citizens Forum. As folks may or may not recall, we have registered speakers who can speak on any topic, as well as we then open the floor to anyone in the audience who would like to speak on an agenda item. For anyone who has not registered to speak and would like to speak this evening, but not on an item that is on the agenda, we return to the Citizens Forum at the end of the township business and before we close our meeting for a chance to do that. So for our registered speakers, the first speaker I have registered is Jean Angel. Welcome back, Ms. Angel.
Good evening. I just want to thank the Board of Commissioners for giving Discover Haverford the opportunity to manage the Matching Facade Grant Program for business revitalization and modernization. We received 25 excellent applications, and because it was competitive and we had limited funds, we were not able to give grants to every business that deserved it, but we did our best to pick the top 11. I'm very pleased with the grants that we'll be proposing to you tonight. They range from roofs and HVAC systems to restaurant and hair salon furniture, from facade work to creating new spaces for the expansion of business services. Thank you to Commissioner Trombetta for her leadership in creating this great program and for all of our committee members. Most of all, thanks to the board and to the township administrator who have been so generous in their use of ARPA funds in multiple ways to help businesses who are recovering from the pandemic. I also want to thank the board for listening to our request for a township-wide parking study, which we believe will be really valuable for our business community and for residents. We hope you vote tonight to move forward with that study, and we look forward to partnering with you on this project. Thanks.
Thank you. The next person on my list is Zach Pizek. Welcome back, Mr. Pizek.
Thank you. Good evening, Board President Commissioner Holmes, Board Vice President Commissioner Trombetta, and fellow commissioners. My name is Zach Pizek, and I serve as the Senior Director of Public Affairs at the Pennsylvania Restaurant and Lodging Association. Wanted to say thank you to the entire board for the opportunity to speak with you again today. Just a few months ago, it was a pleasure to engage with you for my first time at a monthly meeting, and tonight I return with just a simple message. Thank you. I commend your leadership and your dedication to Haverford Township's community, particularly with the initiation of the Business Revitalization and Modernization Matching Grant Program. As the association that represents more than 26,000 restaurants, 1,500 hotels, PRLA expresses sincere appreciation for your unwavering commitment to enhancing the region's hospitality industry. Although the pandemic is now behind us, its prolonged effects persist, impacting numerous bars and restaurants still today. The authorization of this program prompted businesses to reassess their financial standing, ultimately identifying projects that were postponed due to inflation, workforce shortages, and other repercussions of the COVID-19 pandemic. While the pandemic was technically years ago, rather than merely moving forward, this board wisely decided to pause and ask the local business community, what can we do to help? Under the guidance and leadership of Commissioner Trombetta, Commissioner Holmes, and the entire board, you authorized nearly $250,000 of ARPA funding for the Business Revitalization and Modernization Matching Grant Program, a move that will inevitably help businesses still grappling with pandemic-related challenges. Having the privilege to have served on the Grants Committee, I'm proud to share that we had an opportunity to review more than 24 impactful projects showcasing the creativity within Haverford. Many proposed initiatives were ideas that businesses would likely have pursued probably years ago, if not for the setbacks that they unfortunately endured. As you are aware, the hospitality industry contributes significantly to any region's economic and community fabric, and this grant program, with awards ranging up to $25,000, will provide establishments relief that they need while facing these challenges. So thank you for your support promoting the economic vitality of Haverford Township and the support for the industries we represent at PRLA. This program is not merely just a grant, but like I said the last time I saw all of you, it represents a lifeline and hope, and it's an investment in the resilience and the prosperity of our community. My hope now is that other townships might consider copying, pasting, and duplicating this terrific idea elsewhere throughout the Commonwealth. And so on behalf of the entire Pennsylvania Restaurant and Lodging Association and all the members we represent, thank you for creating, prioritizing, and ultimately advancing this program. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mr. Pizek. The next registered speaker, Breck Taylor. Welcome, Mr. Taylor.
You get some handouts for other folks. Hi, my name is Breck Taylor. I've been working on some traffic data for our block. Let me tell you about it real quick, just some highlights here. Requested, as you know, we're concerned on unit block of Colfax with young children, lots of vehicles, lots of speed, and things of that nature. Put in a right to know request to the police department, and received back 2 traffic studies, one on the 100 block of Colfax done in May, and one done on the unit block of Colfax done in October. So let me just walk you quickly through some of these findings. I'll explain at the end. There are other places where you can get more information. Take a look at page 2. What we've got here on the very top is information about how fast vehicles are traveling on weekdays. This is a total over 5 weekdays from 6 a.m. until midnight. And as you can see, at all hours, there are vehicles going faster than 25 miles an hour. In the full report, I consider speeders to be folks going 27 or more, and detailed analysis on that. Bottom, you see what's going on in the 100 block of Colfax. Again, there are folks exceeding 25 miles an hour from 6 a.m. to midnight. The 100 block of Colfax has 40% higher volume than the unit block of Colfax, whether that's due to a seasonal difference. Their study was done in May. On our block was done in October, not sure, but as you can see, folks there are exceeding the speed limit as well. Not showing folks going over 35 miles an hour. There was one vehicle going 49, another one going 61. Whether those are emergency vehicles or not, I'm not sure. That would have to be cross-checked. If you turn to the top of page 3, I'll just sort of show you one of the key key points for us is what's happening during weekday rush hours. And as you can see on the unit block at top there, so taking you through day by day, hour by hour from 4 to 6 p.m. On the unit block, we've got anywhere from 80 to 90 plus per hour. And that's a total for the week, and a week of weekday rush hours, 843 vehicles. And if you look at the gap between vehicles, half the time, the gap is 28 seconds or less. If you look at the 100 block down below, their volume is 870. Again, they're 80, 90, or 100 vehicles per hour. Again, 50% of the time, the gap between their vehicles is 27 seconds or less during these times. We maintain that the unit block has a particular burden of rush hour traffic. You can see that on page 4. What you've got here on the top is we're looking at weekday vehicles, and we're looking at the proportion of weekday vehicles that are traveling through the block during the afternoon weekday rush hour. Unit block of Colfax, that's about 23% of all of our traffic goes through at that time. The 100 block of Colfax is about 17 or 18%. That's a significant difference. We have a bigger rush hour burden, if you will, proportionally on the 100 block. And also supporting the Darby cut-through hypothesis more strongly, on the bottom, we can look at just westbound vehicle traffic, because we maintain that folks are coming out of Hillcrest, do a right and left onto Colfax, or coming down Darby, do a right onto Colfax, and then move elsewhere. And that is supported with the bottom of page 4 here, where you see that of the weekday westbound traffic, 30% of it on the unit block goes through during weekday rush hours, compared to only about 22% on the 100 block. So that supports the cut-through hypothesis. Implications, page 5, do we have vehicles going over the speed limit? Yes, we do. Both blocks have speeders. Would suggest that there is documented substantial foreseeable risk, both to pedestrians and residents exiting their driveways. Focusing on weekday PM rush hours, both blocks have substantial volume, 800 plus vehicles per week of weekday rush hours, and both blocks have substantial packing, where there is 27 or 28 seconds or less half the time between vehicles. The unit block we would maintain has a bigger burden, and so we think that our block has substantial documented risk during these times. Policy options short term, you've already heard about parking on both sides. You'll hear some more about that. That would reduce the number of speeders. It's self-enforcing in a way. Also, to think about the 4 to 6 p.m. weekday entry exclusion on the east end, that would reduce volume and also probably reduce the number of speeders. Is it time to revisit the current policies where we have 4 to 6 p.m. restrictions on East Hillcrest exiting? They can only turn right at that time. Unit West Hillcrest, they cannot enter during weekday rush hours, and 100 block West Hillcrest, they cannot enter as well. Again, I think we've got some policy urgency here and substantial foreseeable risk. Other sources, one quick correction there, pull out your pen. The executive summary report is available at tiny URL exec sum traffic 2023. So the correct URL is exec sum traffic 2023 for the 3-page executive summary. And if you've got a serious insomnia problem and want to read the full report, you can read it there at tinyurl.com, full traffic 2023. There's my contact info. Thanks for your attention. I'll stick around after the regular agenda if there are any more comments. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Our next speaker is Mr. Diskin, Peter Diskin.
Hi again, everybody. It's nice to see you. Thank you for your time again. I'm going to be reading a more scripted presentation tonight, so hopefully I'll be able to keep it tighter than the last one. Following on, Breck and I are like the yin and yang here. He's the numbers guy, I'm the English major. So here we go. I gave you handouts up front. The audience is getting the handouts. The first thing I want to ask is, if you could look at the one that has Pennsylvania Traffic Calming Handbook on the front page, okay? That is for follow-up, okay, because I'll be citing that often as references. What I want to call attention to is up above, Pennsylvania Section 3361, the code, vehicle codes, driving vehicles at a safe speed, okay? Studies have been done. We can get into the weeds about percentiles, how many people are going in excess at the 85th percentile of this, that, and the other thing. My premise is this. The state says that townships, local municipalities, should look at local conditions and make adjustments accordingly. So I want to read this citation. It says, "No person shall drive a vehicle at a speed greater than is reasonable and prudent under the conditions and having regard to the actual and potential hazards then existing." Skipping a bit. "Consistent with the foregoing, every person shall drive at a safe and appropriate speed. When approaching and going around a curve," which I've repeatedly told people here that we have a significant curve on the unit block of Colfax Road. "When approaching and going around a curve, approaching a hill crest, or when traveling upon any narrow or winding roadway, when special hazards exist with respect to pedestrians and other traffic." Curve, lots of children, okay? 2 conditions are met. Now, as for the rest, I'll just simply read my statements. I sent a few of you a copy of this. I modified it briefly. Ladies and gentlemen, I am revisiting my efforts to effect some change or changes on the unit block of Colfax Road. As I mentioned at the December's Commissioners meeting, I now have signatures from 80% of the block homeowners endorsing the idea of allowing parking on both sides of the street. PennDOT's recommendation only calls for between 50 to 70%. See page 18 of the 2012 Traffic Calming Measures Handbook, hereafter referred to as the TCMH. Parking. I am currently requesting parking on both sides of the street be implemented on a trial basis. Such an idea is supported by the recommendations made on page 20 of the TCMH, and the trial should be for a period between 3 to 6 months. At the end of the trial, I'll circulate a new petition to residents and accept the results. Signage. Additionally, I've recommended there be signs stating, 1, the speed limit. We have no speed limit sign on the block in either direction. 2, advising drivers of the significant curve coming up on the block. 3, warning drivers about the many children in the area. 4, redirecting rush hour traffic by excluding the 4 to 6 p.m. entry off Darby Road. Enforcement. Similarly, I've asked for increased policing and stricter enforcement of full stops in the neighborhood. Full stops in the neighborhood. All of these proposals are consistent with the standards of education, enforcement, and engineering outlined on pages 3 and 4 of the TCMH. Background. Sergeant Long and I, who is the director for operations in this area of the police, Sergeant Long and I have spoken many times about the unit block of Colfax being used as a cut-through by traffic, avoiding or actually being redirected away from the Darby and Eagle Road intersection. He has done site inspections and conducted traffic studies. I appreciate his work, though we disagree on some matters. For instance, yes, our block is narrow, but Sergeant Long has demonstrated a fire truck can pass between 2 large SUVs parked directly across from each other. Additionally, even a casual drive through our township will show numerous examples of streets that have the signage I have proposed and blocks of equal or lesser widths that allow for parking on both sides. As I've stated before, our most proximate neighbors on Ellis, Clearfield, Decatur, Hillcrest, Rockland, and the 100 block of Colfax all can park on both sides of their streets. Yet I can find no justification in the township's archives for why an ordinance was passed in the mid-1970s prohibiting this on the unit block of Colfax. In conclusion, it is written that, quote, "Parking on both sides of a street is the most effective way of slowing traffic on an ongoing basis." See page 33 of the TCMH. Again, I am not asking for an exception. We are the exception. I'm here tonight asking you to please repeal this ordinance for a trial period and give the block's residents the chance to make an informed decision on this safety and quality of life issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dixon. Diskin. our final registered speaker for the evening, Dave Mayer. I say, is it Mayer or Meyer?
Mayor.
Mayer. Mr. Mayer, welcome.
Good evening. The reason I'm coming tonight is because of the tobacco shop package that you want to, not package, I'm sorry, whatever the correct term is. After reading it, I kind of objected being in that group. However, the Wooden Indian, which I'm the owner-operator of, has been dealing directly with tobacco products in Delaware County for 65 years. 55 of those years have been here in Haverford Township. These shops really don't threaten me in any way, shape, or form because what they're selling is nothing. I sell nothing but cigars, pipe tobacco, pipes for tobacco use. What bothers me is one of the products they do sell, called Creighton. I don't know whether you've read anything about it. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of reading on it. And I just wanted to come forward and say this product is harmful, addictive, and should not be sold in Haverford Township or any place else. I brought a couple of articles, one from the Mayo Clinic, the other one from the New York Times, as well as bill number 614 in the Pennsylvania General Assembly, which is the act prohibiting the preparation, manufacture, sale, or distribution of kratom products. Just wanted to submit them to you. It's something that really should be carefully considered. It's a product that shouldn't be here amongst us. I've seen the results of it. I've seen the withdrawal of it. And it's sad. It has cocaine type of addiction and is very, very harmful in the state it's in. Perhaps in India, millenniums ago, when it's a pure form being distributed by priests and everything else. But what we get here in the United States is what they've put together and packaged. Again, like the original vape products, which I don't even carry. The vape products to begin with were unregulated, and they were mixed in bathtubs and sold to the public. This is an unregulated substance. The last I read, you had to be 18 to buy it, which is a lower age than any other tobacco product. In this bill, I believe they want to change it to 21. So really, that's all I have to say tonight. I just wanted to bring this to your attention. I think it's very, very important, and I'd like to submit these to you if I may.
I will gladly accept them, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. I know your shop. I knew your shop when it was in the Manoa Shopping Center before you moved to where you were. So thank you for this information. Okay. How about that? Terrific. Well, thank you for being here and thank you for this information.
Thank you.
I will share this with my colleagues and with our solicitor. That will be the completion of our registered speakers. It is now time for anyone in the audience who would like to address an item that is on our agenda. As always, I will start on my left. Is there anybody in the front row who would like to speak on an agenda item? Or the second row? Behind Mr. Mayor, anyone in the third row or fourth row back there? Anyone in the fifth or last row would like to speak on an agenda item? Seeing none, I'll move to the right. Anybody here in the front of the room who'd like to speak on any agenda item? Anybody in the back on the right who would like to speak on one of the agenda items? Seeing none, thank you all. Thank you for your comments. Our speakers addressing the grant program, our Business Revitalization and Modernization Matching Grant Program. Thank you for those comments and for your appreciation of what we did. I certainly appreciate the efforts of my colleagues, and in particular Commissioner Trombetta on her work putting that together along with Discover Haverford, and look forward to the awarding of those grants. Mr. Taylor and Mr. Diskin, thank you for your advocacy and for the information provided, and the data will be very useful for us. And Mr. Mayor, thank you again. for the information about that product. We now move on to the next item in our agenda, and that would be our Bureau of Fire update.
The Bureau of Fire report for February of 2024, we had a total incidences, 64, 49 township incidences, 15 out-of-township mutual aid incidents. Average personnel per call was 17, 1,092 personnel hours committed to incidents, 935 personnel hours committed to training, and we provided mutual aid to 5 working fires within Delaware County.
Thank you, Commissioner Gondek. Do any of my colleagues have any questions for Commissioner Gondek on the Bureau of Fire report? Hearing none, I now invite our Township Auditor with great trepidation.
First, I just want to say I wish I had money to blow like the Eagles just did on Saquon Barkley. But also, I want to say, too, that I have reviewed our warranted expenditures for this meeting. I found no irregularities, and all my questions were answered to my satisfaction. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson, as always. Let's see. Now, Mr. Berman, our Township Manager update.
Thank you. There are so many great projects going on in the township right now. The one thing I wanted to talk about, which we sort of discussed a few minutes ago, is the Safe Streets for All study that we're doing in the township. We had a kickoff meeting on the website. We had a virtual kickoff meeting, which is now posted on the website. And there's a page set aside for that program. The program is basically the township's attempt to eliminate or reduce serious injuries or fatalities due to traffic incidents. And so this is part of a federal program, and we are developing a qualified safety action plan that, when complete, will enable us to apply for implementation grants from the feds. It's going to allow us to install, hopefully, allow us to install certain features, safety features like bump outs, bulb outs, intersection improvements, crosswalks, pinch points on some of the busier neighborhood streets to help address some of the traffic concerns that we hear about in the township pretty much all the time. So there are going to be next steps in this process. On the website, you'll see a survey that we'd like everybody to complete, if you wouldn't mind. And in addition to that, we're going to have 9 focus groups, 1 in each ward. And so the first one of those focus groups is for the first ward, and that is tomorrow, March 12th, from 6 to 7 p.m. at Linwood Elementary School. There'll be another one this Thursday, Wednesday, March 13th, and that is the second ward, and that'll be held at Minoa Elementary School, and they'll follow sequentially after that by ward. The dates, again, are on the website, and if anybody has any questions, you can feel free to email me for additional information. There are a number of other really interesting projects that are happening right now. We have the Darby Road Streetscape Phase 3 project, and that's from West Benedict to West Turnbull. And if you're down in that neighborhood, you'll see that the concrete's being replaced. There are some planters being put in for new trees. There'll be new streetlights later, new parking meters, and other amenities there, including ADA accessibility at the curb. We have the park and ride facility at Mill and Carricung that's moving along nicely. That's for that's to relieve some of the parking on the side streets that is using the P&W, the SEPTA line there. And so that should help reduce some of the congestion in the neighborhoods by there. We have the Darby Creek Trail, Southern Extension. We're planning to extend that trail. We've recently issued a contract to begin on the south end of that trail to take a trail from Vermont and Warrior along the outfields at McDonald Field, and that'll get us to a point where we'll take the next phase of that project. So we're going to get to the edge of the ball fields, and then we'll be working on the rest of that project. So we're taking it one step at a time. In that neighborhood, we're doing the Vermont and Glendale multimodal transportation improvements. That's going to be an intersection improvement project, ultimately, that will probably realign the intersection And at some point, when we come to some decisions with PennDOT, we're looking at other improvements to allow pedestrians to get across Glendale and Vermont safely, more safely. Parking study we talked about earlier, we'll be kicking that off very shortly, and that'll be looking at things like payment methods, new innovations in parking payment methods. We'll be looking at the timing that the parking is in the parking lots, and other zoning analysis that will help us to improve parking and improve opportunity for business in the business districts. We have stadium cooling towers that are being replaced, and they're just about done. We will have a chiller replacement project at the stadium, and that is scheduled for May. So there'll be an extended shutdown of the stadium for about 6 weeks, give or take, beginning in May. And we're also working on the design for renovations to the locker rooms at the stadium. In addition, we have, the Pensy Trail. So this coming week for the Pensy Trail, beginning March 18th, we'll be receiving delivery for some of the Ready Rock. They're the rocks that we'll be using to line the two walls that you've seen built on Manoa Road right next to the Township Building at Columbia. And so those rocks are going to be delivered the week of the 18th of March, and the construction of those walls will take place right after that. And as we go through this project, it's looking like the bridge could be here possibly in May. Now, that doesn't mean the project will be complete or the bridge will be open, but the bridge placement is a big milestone in the project and very exciting, so we're hoping for that sometime in May. The library. So they're working on the library. There'll be, one of the things you'll notice this week is that on the 14th and 15th, from 7:30 a.m. to 2 p.m., and we have been working with the school district on this, Mill Road will be shut down temporarily during those hours so that we can pump some concrete into the building for some floor leveling. We're also working on the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing rough-in work, and not much going on. That's all I have tonight.
Underachiever.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. The next item on our agenda
Quick
is...
question on that. Mr. Berman, for the focus groups that are coming up, is those open to anyone, or do they have to sign up? Can you just clarify on that?
We would like people to sign up just so we know approximately how many to expect, but they're open. So please, even if you haven't signed up, take a look at the website and the schedule's there, and feel free to attend whether you sign up or not.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Berman?
Also, topic.
I'm sorry, I said questions for my colleagues. If you, the public comment is over now. If you do want to get up later and speak and address the board, you can, but that's fine. Thank you, Mr. Diskin. And I should clarify. Do any commissioners have any other questions for Mr. Berman? Hearing none, we will move on to the next item on the agenda, which I believe is the consideration and approval of our minutes.
Yes, I move to adopt the meeting minutes of February 12th.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments or deletions or additions? Hearing none.
Commissioner Gondek,
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty-Grupp,
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey,
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender,
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn,
Yes.
Commissioner McCollum,
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta,
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. Next item on our agenda, the approval of warrants.
Motion to approve the following warrant, number 3, 2024, totaling $4,509,137.21. General and sewer fund payroll for February 15th, 2024, in the amount of $774,521.51. General and sewer fund payroll for February 29th, 2024, in the amount of $817,387.92. general fund disbursements number 3, 2024, in the amount of $1,490,224.17. Sewer fund disbursement number 3, 2024, in the amount of $619,598.31. Community development block grant fund disbursement number 3, 2024, in the amount of $35,027.90. Capital Projects Fund disbursement number 3, 2024, in the amount of $535,749.46. American Rescue Plan Fund disbursement number 3, 2024, in the amount of $223,097.96. Credit card statement ending February 27th, 2024, in the amount of $13,529.98.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments on the warrants? Hearing none.
Commissioner Gondik,
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb,
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey,
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender,
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn,
Yes.
Commissioner McCollum,
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta,
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. The next item for our consideration is a stipulation to settle a tax assessment appeal.
Mr. President,
Commissioner Trombetta.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the settlement and stipulation of counsel in the matter of an owner-initiated property tax assessment appeal for property located at 22 Woodcroft Road, BC number 22-04-00735-00, pending in the Court of Common Pleas of Delaware County, number 2020-009294, and to authorize counsel and proper officers of the board to execute necessary documents.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments about this? Hearing none. Mr. Berman.
Commissioner Gondik,
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb,
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey,
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender,
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn,
Yes.
Commissioner McCollum,
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta,
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. The next item on our agenda is a grant award.
Mr. President,
Yes, Commissioner Trombetta.
to make a motion to approve the grant award recommendations under the Business Revitalization and Modernization Matching Grant Program.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Commissioner Trombetta, would you like to report on this?
Thank you. So tonight, the board will consider approving awards to 11 local businesses through this program. And so I just wanted to share a little bit about the process for determining the awardees. Following the board's approval of the program, and as prescribed in the program guidelines, a dedicated committee of 7 individuals, including several township officials and representatives from Discover Haverford, from the Pennsylvania Restaurant and Lodging Association, and Visit Delco, convened to develop a comprehensive scoring rubric. This rubric was made available to applicants at the time that the application was made public in January. Thanks to the promotion from the township and our partnering organizations, especially Discover Haverford, I'm delighted to report that we received an overwhelming response to our call for applications. In fact, we had over $500,000 in grant requests. We truly regret that we cannot fund all the projects. However, I can tell you that the committee worked very diligently to review each application using the established scoring rubric. This committee, again, identified 11 awardees, and so I will name them now. Brew Your Own Beer, Centrella's Deli, Adam Dye DMD PC, House Cup Coffee, In the Fringe LLC, Mainline Therapeutic Wellness, MFR Fitness / Havertown Health and Fitness, Rita's Water Ice, the one at 55 West Eagle Road, Sampan Inn, Wavelengths Hair Salon, and finally, the Yard Pub. These recommended awardees represent a diverse set of projects that have the potential to provide meaningful support to several local businesses who have been negatively impacted by the pandemic, as was intended with the Federal American Rescue Plan Act funding. It also potentially has the ability to support the economic vitality of our community as a whole. Finally, I just wanted to say this couldn't have been done without the vision of Zach Pizek from the Pennsylvania Restaurant and Lodging Association, who we saw tonight. Of course, the hard work of Jean Angel from Discover Haverford and our incredible township staff. Thank you all for considering the recommendations this evening.
Thank you, Commissioner Trombetta. Anybody have any questions or comments? Hearing none.
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner McCollum.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. We now move to ordinances. We have several to consider tonight. The first ordinance, number P3 of 2024, relates to the stadium.
Motion to adopt the second reading of ordinance number P3, 2024, authorizing a renewal lease agreement with Chef & Sons LLC, doing business as Haverburger, Essington, PA, for a portion of certain property located at 1018 Darby Road, the Stadium, Havertown, PA, subject to review by the township solicitor and further subject to the approval of the township manager of the final document.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments on this ordinance? It is a second reading. Hearing none.
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner McCollum.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. Next ordinance for our consideration is ordinance number P4 of 2024 relating to traffic.
Mr. President,
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
a motion to adopt the second reading of ordinance number P4, 2024, authorizing traffic restrictions on the following highways. Establish special purpose parking zones in front of 2447 Winfield Drive. Establish parking of all vehicles prohibited at all times. No parking here to corner the unit block of Colfax Road, north side, from the corner of Darby Road to a point 60 feet west. Rescind permit parking only on Mifflin Avenue.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments on these? This is the second reading. Hearing none.
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner McCollum.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. And finally, our last ordinance for consideration this evening is ordinance number P5 of 2024, amending Chapter 47 and Chapter 182 of Haverford Township Code for games of skill and significant tobacco retailers. This is a first reading.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to adopt the first reading of ordinance number P5, 2024, amending Chapter 182 entitled Zoning to clarify the definition of convenience store, to define e-liquids, electronic cigarettes, electronic nicotine delivery systems, game of skill machines, hookah bars, indoor recreational or amusement facilities, mechanical amusement devices, significant tobacco retailers and smoke shops, to prohibit mechanical amusement devices within the premises of significant tobacco retailers, and to prohibit game of skill machines in convenience stores, to expressly prohibit significant tobacco retailers in the C2 Neighborhood Commercial District, to delete cigarette and tobacco as permitted to be sold in gift shops in the C3 General Commercial District, to establish significant tobacco retailers, including smoke shops, vape shops, and hookah lounges as a use permitted by conditional use in the C5 Shopping Center Commercial District, and to establish the criteria for the approval of a significant tobacco retailer's use.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Would anyone like to discuss this ordinance? Nobody wants to discuss this ordinance?
Well, with this, we could always change things around if there's anything that comes before us again. We could amend this and add things to it, right?
We can, of course. We will seek our solicitor's advice as to whether it's a change significant enough to require another public hearing. But obviously, we had a public hearing, took in a great deal of input. I think some questions were asked. I think we have some answers to those questions that we should provide. There was a lot of question about enforcement of the law as it's written. There were a lot of things raised about the current activities at different shops in store. We did just get information from Mr. Mayor. I don't know whether that's going to be something that we are going to incorporate into the ordinance tonight. It may be considered between now and a second reading if it passes the first reading this evening. But with the caveat that we should also get an opinion from our solicitors to whether it's a substantial enough change to have, basically created a new ordinance. But it is certainly something that we can.
As we've seen with this stuff, this deal with the vapes and all these things, they change every day. So I'm sure in the years to come, we're going to get more things saying that this is bad for you, this is worse for you, this is, and we can just add it in here, and if we need to.
Right. I think yeah, there's nothing that we can pass that we can't then amend, whether it's to relax it, whether it's to make things more restricted. That is always within our powers, Commissioner Quinn, and I think we should not, as I've said numerous times before, let the perfect be the enemy of the good. We have, it has been requested by quite a few people in the township, throughout the township, for us to consider the regulations relating to the proliferation of tobacco and vape shops, and this ordinance is the product of that, as well as the product of a great deal of public input. I do know that there were questions asked last week at the public hearing about enforcement. Our police department has provided some information for us relating to the law surrounding the sale of tobacco and tobacco products. So we'll remind everybody it is illegal to sell tobacco to anyone under the age of 21. It is illegal to sell loosies. And for those who don't know what those are, those would be unpackaged single cigarettes, any flavored cigarettes other than menthol cigarettes, selling tobacco products in vending machines. I'm sure a number of you are old enough to remember those in bars and everywhere. It is also illegal to sell cigarettes or RYO products. I know that's defined somewhere. But any of these products that are not already listed for sale on Pennsylvania Tobacco's product directory. There was a question about fines and about the consequences of violations. The fines range from $250 for the first offense to over $1,000, as well as imprisonment for not more than 30 days, depending on how many violations there have been. Any person selling or furnishing tobacco products to a person under the age of 21 can be fined between $100 and $250 for the first offense, $250 to $500 for a second offense, and $500 to $1,000 for subsequent offenses. Retailers have a higher range of fines, from $100 to $500 for a first offense, $500 to $1,000 for a second offense, and then $1,000 through $5,000 for subsequent offenses. And this is something that's worth noting. Upon the third conviction of a retailer in a 2-year period, the Department of Health may suspend the retailer's cigarette license for up to a month, and on a fourth conviction, they may suspend the license up to 2 months. I remind everybody, if they are aware of or witness an unlawful tobacco sale, they should call 1-877-287-1373. That's the direct line to the state, as well as they can just dial 911 and alert our own police department.
That's what I was about to say.
Yeah, a number of folks raised issues last week about violations, about things that they see or things that they heard, or they referred to some of these stores as stores that had numerous violations. I have asked the police department about this to confirm this. We do not have a history of very many reports to our police department of suspicious or illegal activity at these vape shops. I would encourage anybody who sees it, not just at any of these vape shops, but if they see the sale of beer to minors, if they see the sale of tobacco, or frankly, any law breaking in our township, they should not hesitate to alert our police departments. And I think that answers a lot of the questions people had about enforcement. Does anybody else on the board have any questions or comments?
Sure. I guess I have a comment after that. I just want to make sure the public knows, for anybody watching tonight who maybe didn't see the hearing last week or wasn't able to attend, the enforcement that Commissioner Holmes just listed are all based on state law, right? So what we're passing here is a zoning ordinance designed to change our zoning laws. But it should be, we've all talked to a lot of the residents about this, and it should just be, everyone should be aware that these are legal products. And when people talk at the meeting last week and in conversations with all of us, it's apparent that some people just have concerns about these products and the health concerns that they have regarding those products. If that is your concern, the legality of these products will not be changed by our zoning ordinance. The legality of the products is controlled at the state level, and I just want to make sure that is abundantly clear as sort of the limitations as to what we're trying to do here. And I'd also, along the similar line, many of the comments I've received and were at the meeting last week related to the sale to minors, and that's what most of the enforcement that Commissioner Holmes just referenced. I would just offer, I undoubtedly am concerned about the sale of minors. I'm undoubtedly concerned about the addictive nature of these products and its sale to children. But I just want the public to understand that the products are not just being sold to minors. There's adults who buy these products, and that's part of the challenge that is at the state and at our level, that there is some market for these stores. And I offer that because, I've also heard from commissioners in other municipalities like Quakertown and different places who are all battling the same problem, the prevalence of vape shops appearing. I know our neighboring municipalities are facing that as well. So I certainly support this ordinance and what we're trying to do tonight. But I think in our public discourse about it, it's important to take into consideration what we're actually doing. So.
And I would say to also contact your state reps and let them know how you feel too, because they can change this stuff too. So they're the ones, and then once they pass it, then we can do more as well. So contact your state reps in all around the state. Contact each and every one.
Spoken with fervor of an ex-smoker. All the religious fervor you can fire up.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes, Mr. Forsty-Grubb.
I'd like to sort of piggyback on what Commissioner McCluskey said. We do have a part of this new ordinance that does not allow that a significant tobacco retailer will be no significant tobacco retailer will be located within 1,000 feet of the boundary of a school, public, private, or parochial, daycare, or open space. And that is to help keep the temptation of going into these shops away from children, since we know that statistically, if children begin to smoke or vape while they're young, they'll probably continue that habit lifelong, and it is very difficult to kick that habit. So we do have that as part of the ordinance, which I think is a good thing.
Thank you for that, Commissioner Forsty-Grubb, and thank you, Commissioner McCluskey, for your comments. I would like to build on your comments as well, Commissioner McCluskey, and that is this. The businesses that are in our township now are businesses in our township. They're here legally. They are paying taxes. They're selling a legal product. And while a great many of people may disagree with the product and not want to use it and certainly want to keep it out of their hands of their children, there are others who patronize these businesses. And obviously these businesses serve a need here in Haverford Township because they are here and are open for business. So I leave it to our PD, our excellent PD, to enforce the laws we have, our state laws and our local laws. I remind everybody that it only takes one or two, bad stories or, experiences of somebody, selling cigarettes to minors to give the wrong impression of just a general state of lawlessness. And I'm not sure that's entirely fair to impart on these business owners. Like every other business owner in Haverford Township, they are just trying to make a living and do it within the confines of our law and within our communities. So I do appreciate everybody's comments on that thought and just wanted to share that as well. Does anybody else have anything else they would like to discuss on this topic before we put it up for a vote?
Just very briefly, I would just like to highlight one of the things is that the time that this ordinance was first drafted and people started to become aware of it, feedback was solicited and feedback was received from the Planning Commission, from individual residents of the township, and so on. And that feedback was listened to and was processed and was incorporated into changes to this ordinance that allowed for what I would consider a better ordinance to be put before us today. So I do want to highlight that, when people participate, their participation is noted, and it does generally does result in a better product.
Thank you, Commissioner Gondik. Anybody else? Hearing nothing else, Mr. Berman.
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender. Yes. Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner McCollum.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. Okay, we are done with ordinances for the evening. We're now moving to resolutions. The next resolution for our consideration is resolution number 2368, 2024, the 2023 budget transfer. I will entertain a motion.
Mr. President,
Yes, Commissioner Trombetta.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution number 2368-2024, authorizing the 2023 budget transfer.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments on this? No, this was been previously described to us by our finance director. So, Mr. Berman?
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Quinn. Yes. Commissioner McCollum.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. The next resolution for our consideration is resolution number 2369 of 2024, preliminary final land development for the combined properties at 2228 and 2224 Haverford Road.
Motion to adopt resolution number 2369, 2024, approving the preliminary final land development plan for JPM Haverford Road, 2228 and 2224 Haverford Road, Haverford, PA, Delaware County, known as DC Folio numbers 2206-01067-02 and 2206-01067-01, has been submitted to consolidate the two lots of property into a single lot and to construct a second floor addition above the existing warehouse, along with the associated site improvements. The new consolidated lot will have a total area of 20,715 square feet, or 0.475 acres, and there will be no increase in the impervious coverage. The properties are within the R5 residential zoning district and the 6th Ward. The site plan, sheet 1 of 1, prepared by Carl E. Cray, Philadelphia, PA, dated October 31st, 2022, and last revised February 2nd, 2024. The architectural plans cover sheet GO.1, GO.2, A1.1, A1.2, A1.3, A2.1, and A2.2 was prepared by Remus Zimajewski Architecture, Collingswood, New Jersey, dated May 30th, 2023, subject to the recommendation of the Planning Commission.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments on this property? Hearing none. Mr. Berman?
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner McCollum.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. Next item on our agenda is resolution number 2370 of 2024. It's the use of ARPA funds to contract with CH Planning for a parking study.
Mr. President,
Yes, Commissioner Trombetta.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution number 2370-2024 that the Board of Commissioners desires to make improvements and financial investments in several township projects and initiatives in accordance with the allowable spending structure as described by the U.S. Department of Treasury's final rules as follows. To award a professional service contract to CH Planning of Philadelphia, PA, in an amount not to exceed $60,000 for a comprehensive parking study of the business districts in Haverford Township.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments on this resolution?
I would just briefly comment that I am obviously in support of this particular resolution. I think it's a great investment in our township. One of the things that has been a constant issue in the township and specifically in our business districts as we continue to try to develop them has been the parking situation. And it's not just with one particular business district, it's pretty much with all of them. So I am actually very much looking forward to the results of this study and hoping that that we ultimately are presented with some good recommendations on how to best address these situations.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none.
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner McCollum.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. The next resolution for our consideration is resolution number 2371 of 2024 relating to the disposal of township assets.
Motion to adopt resolution number 2371, 2024, resolving that the Board of Commissioners of the Township of Haverford authorizes the Township Manager and the Director of Finance to supervise the disposal of personal property as identified above in a manner and at such time as they determine appropriate in accordance with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania's First-Class Township Code.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments on this? Hearing none.
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner McCollum.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. Next resolution for our consideration is Resolution 2372 of 2024, the use of ARPA funds for parks and playground equipment.
Mr. President,
Commissioner Trombetta.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution number 2372-2024 that the Board of Commissioners desires to make improvements and financial investments in several township projects and initiatives in accordance with the allowable spending structure as described by the U.S. Department of Treasury's final rules as follows. Hilltop Park replacement steps for softball field and basketball courts in an amount not to exceed $9,620. Replace shingles on Haverford Reserve Pavilion and 2 dugouts on the turf field in an amount not to exceed $13,813. Repair perimeter and ball field fencing at various township parks in an amount not to exceed $25,000. Replace 9 swing sets for the following parks: Bailey Park, Chatham Glen, Guest Track, and Lawrence Road Park. Replace slides for the following parks: Chatham Glen and Foster Track. Replace 6 spring animals with handles compliant with current safety standards. The total for all swings, 2 slides, and spring animals is $47,729. Replace and install 6 picnic tables at various parks in the total amount of $8,660.
Second. I have one question. Is there any way to make those spring animals safe? Seriously?
Caught me up for a second.
Like, seriously? Yeah. Does anybody have an intelligent question about any of these uses of our park funds? Hearing none. Mr. Berman?
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner McCullum.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. The next thing for us to consider is our final resolution of the evening, resolution number 2373 of 2024. This is a motion to consider an EPA easement.
Mr. President, motion to adopt resolution number 2373, 2024, authorizing the issuance of a pipeline easement at 891 West Eagle Road to the United States Army Corps of Engineers for Havertown PCP EPA Superfund project, and the chairman of the Board of Commissioners, the township manager, the township engineer, and/or the township solicitor are hereby authorized to take all action necessary on behalf of the township to effectuate the grant of the easement.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Would it be possible, Mr. Berman, that you or Mr. Pannoni could just describe this easement to us?
So the board may remember across the street from what's now the YMCA property was a active Superfund site. There used to be a lumber yard at the site. Lumber yard burned down in the 80s, 90s. There was a lot of contamination associated with it. The EPA came in, collected and capped the contaminated soils that are on the site below the storage facility. There is a whole lot of groundwater studies that track the groundwater. The groundwater goes across Eagle Road, gets collected and pumped back up to the building you see on that same property. When you look at that property to the right side of the self-storage is a building that collects that collected water, physically treats it, not biologic, and then discharges it to that small stream. These easements are the infrastructure on the YMCA property to collect and convey that water back up to the Superfund site. These two easements, and there's already multiple easements the EPA has on that property. These two particular easements are right adjacent to the property line in what we call the setbacks. So there is no building in the setbacks now or typically proposed. So they're in an area that shouldn't encumber the site in the future.
No, and also, as I understand, we are to be paid by the EPA for the granting of this easement.
That's correct, $10,000. Based on the EPA's appraisal of the property, a formal appraisal had been conducted.
Excellent, thank you. Do any of my colleagues have any questions or comments about this? Hearing none.
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner McCullum.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. Next for our consideration this evening are a number of contract awards. We will take them one at a time. First contract award is professional services contract for CH Planning.
Mr. President,
Commissioner Trombetta.
I'd like to make a motion to award a professional service contract to CH Planning of Philadelphia, PA, in an amount not to exceed $60,000 for a comprehensive parking study of the business districts in Haverford Township.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? This was obviously the subject of a resolution we passed just moments ago. Mr. Berman?
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner McCollum.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. Our next motion is, our next contract for consideration is the Haverford Township Free Library.
Mr. President,
Mr. Forresty Grubb.
motion to award a professional services contract in the amount of $27,660 to the Stone House Group of Bethlehem, PA for HVAC consulting and commissioning services relating to the Haverford Township Free Library renovation and expansion project.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments on this? Hearing none.
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner McCollum.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. For our next consideration is a contract with the Scadium.
Motion to amend the original contract award to Elliott Lewis Corp., Philadelphia, PA, to include alternate 8-3 in the amount of $73,300 for a total revised contract award of $878,200. Elliott Lewis remains the lowest responsible bidder.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none.
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner McCollum.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes, before we move on to the next one, we are on schedule for the work that is happening at the Scadium.
Yes, for both projects Dave mentioned, the cooling towers that are in progress and the chillers that would be a spring replacement.
And that's going to shut down the ice. That starts around May 15th, and we're anticipating about 6 weeks.
Correct.
So far, so good. Everything's on schedule.
So far, yes.
Fingers crossed.
I have a lot of anxious hockey players that I play with who
There's a couple
don't know what they're going to do for 6 weeks.
This is our third set of chillers. You get an anxious engineer.
All right. Excellent. Any other questions or comments? No, I'm sorry. We'll move on to the next contract. This would be for this is now purchases. The Public Works Department will be purchasing recycling cans.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I would like to make a motion to authorize the purchase of 632-gallon recycle cans in the amount not to exceed $16,740 under CoStar's contract number 017-E22-054 from TM Fitzgerald and Associates, 8050 Westchester Pike, Havertown, PA.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments about recycle cans? Hearing none.
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner McCollum.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. Next for our consideration are purchases associated with the Darby Road Streetscape Number 3, street poles and fixtures.
Motion to purchase of 5 decorative street poles and fixtures for Darby Road Streetscape Phase 3 from Cooper Electric under CoStar's purchasing contract 008-268 in the amount of $25,418.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Hearing none.
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner McCollum.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. Next for our consideration are a number of contracts with the Parks and Rec Department. First one is pavilion and dugout roof repairs at the Haverford Reserve Pavilion.
Mr. President,
Mr. Trombetta.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the replacement of shingles on Haverford Reserve Pavilion and 2 dugouts on the turf field from Impriano Roofing and Siding, Westchester, PA, in an amount not to exceed $13,813.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments about this contract? Hearing none. Mr. Berman?
Yes. Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner McCollum.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. Next consideration, the next purchase under consideration is replacement swings and slides for various parks and replacement spring animals.
Mr. President,
Yes, Commissioner Trombetta.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the replacement of 9 swing sets for the following parks: Bailey Park, Chatham Glen, Guest Tract, and Lawrence Road Park. Replace slides for the following parks: Chatham Glen and Foster Tract. Replace 6 spring animals with handles compliant with current safety standards. The total for all swings, 2 slides, and spring animals is $47,729 from Recreation Resource USA, Kennett Square, PA, under CoStar's contract 014-E22-249.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Hearing none.
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner McCollum.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. Next for our consideration is a number of change orders. We will consider all of these all at once. These are change orders for the Haverford Township Free Libraries renovation and addition project. I will entertain the motion.
Motion to approve change order 3 in the credit amount of parentheses $1,612.80, close parentheses, with Redcon Construction for the library renovation and expansion GC contract. Motion to approve change order 1 in the amount of $12,359.60 with Dolan Mechanical for the library renovation and expansion mechanical contract. And then the next motion, the amount needs to be corrected. It's not, it's a typo. It reads $29,390.78. It should actually read $26,390.78.
And that is change order 1 with Dolan Mechanical for
Yeah.
the library renovation and expansion plumbing contract.
Yeah. Okay. Motion to approve change order number 1 in the amount of $26,390.78 with Dolan Mechanical for the library renovation and expansion plumbing contract. Motion to approve change order 1 in the amount of $5,650 with AJM Electric for the library renovation and expansion electrical contract.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for all these change orders. So the vote yes is for all 4. A vote no would be for none. Please call the roll, Mr. Berman.
Commissioner Gondik.
Yes.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Yes.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cavender.
Yes.
Commissioner Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner McCollum.
Yes.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes. We are finished with contracts. Next, for our consideration, are appointments. The Senior Citizens Advisory Board for the 6th Ward will remain unfilled for this meeting. I will get back to my colleagues.
Please do.
I will. Vacant Property Review Committee.
Mr. President,
Yes.
may I make a motion to table this?
Anybody seconding it? We have a motion to
Second.
table and a motion and a second for tabling discussion of the Vacant Property Review Committee. All in favor of tabling?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. It's tabled. And We are now off appointments. Move back to continuation of citizens forum for non-agenda items. As I've said earlier, anybody here who would like to speak on any item, they can. I will, as always, start on my left. Yes. So you could come to the podium. You do. That way, our listening audience can hear you as well.
Hi, I'm Liz Falcone. I live on Colfax Road, the corner of Darby and Eagle. They have that beautiful fence still around and junk inside. They now have pushed the fence in, so now cars are parking in there. Why? First,
So the long story short is the township asked them to put the fence in because it was not legal to place the fence all the way on the property lines. The township is going to use some of the planters that we have from around the township, move them over there to sort of spruce it up a little bit. It's in the middle of our business district, and we'd like it to look a little bit nicer than it has over the past 3 years. The equipment that is on the lot is actually part of the EPA's project. They have an arrangement with the landowner to store their equipment there. And so we're trying to work together to make sure that the place stays safe. We don't want cars parked there, obviously, and that's why we're going to move the planters over there to beautify it a little bit.
okay, is there anything coming up, like any idea that they're going to do something different with it besides having it the way it is?
I haven't heard anything recently.
Okay.
I know that the property sold about a month and a half ago, maybe. Republic Bank sold the property to a developer that is not currently local that I'm aware of.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Anybody else on the left?
Good evening. I'm Helene Comrie-Smith. I live here in Haverford Township. I was at the meeting on Monday night for zoning, and after reviewing the Fair Housing Act, I'm not sure how it applies to 17 Temby Road variance, which applies to increasing to a 9-person unrelated residence. Unfortunately, we really don't know that much about attics in terms of when they're using and when they're not, because it can change. If an addict is in recovery, they're in a protected class. And if they're actively using, they're not. However, we can't discriminate when we talk about the Fair Housing Act, since definitions are kind of loose on like what I said, when recovery time is occurring. Because most times someone is not under the influence is at any time they are in recovery. It's really a day-by-day determination early on. And I don't think we're focusing on the right things. I think we need to focus on having an active business, even though it's a non-for-profit, operating in an R1 zoned home in a residential neighborhood that can have professional buildings. But again, this does not fit that same classification. So how our ordinances cover businesses with a multitude of people going in and out of an R1 home in a residential area, there's some level of definitions in there in your zoning, and then I'm becoming quite familiar with that. In 182-201, and if you keep going through, anyone can look at that. But I really do think we need to look at the R1 zoning code. What does it include? And so we need to also talk about businesses that are inclusive of a nonprofit. Savage Sisters are a nonprofit, so technically they're a business, but they're not a commercial business. And it's non-conforming to a family for it to have 9 people living there. So we need to remedy this situation, since zoning codes should consider the health and safety limits of residential structures by imposing that maximum number of unrelated individuals. Traditional zoning codes with definitions of a family, unfortunately, are now arbitrary. Our zoning codes for residential and commercial business are arbitrary under this as well. And when we're thinking about zoning and ordinances, how are residents to know if they buy in an R1 zoning area that that's not really going to change either? I think we're in a pickle in this situation. Another concern that I have, since several times the safety of the township residents is concerned, What we have an ordinance here for renting property in this town, and the deed recorded in some homes don't match the lessor's name unless a certified, I'm not sure if a certified notarized legal documents attend with an application to apply for renting our property in our township. And then also, there was a compost study done in September. Money was allotted, and we're now in February. The $25,000 was sent for a grant. When were we going to see the results of that study? We are hearing a lot about different things, and I can't find it online anymore because a lot of the old notes and agendas are not online for township residents. So if that could be fixed, I'd greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Great. And I'm told in the April work session, we will have a report on the status of the composting study. And as far as the rest of your comments, we appreciate them. And obviously, those are all under consideration right now before the zoning board. And when it comes before the Board of Commissioners, it will then be under consideration by the Board of Commissioners. Thank you.
I have a quick comment to make about the accessibility of the documents. My understanding, and Dave, maybe you want to weigh in, is we're in the process of making the township website ADA compliant. So it's a federal regulation to make sure that all of our documents can be accessed by people with differing, site requirements, et cetera. So I think it's a long process, and township staff is working on it. So that's why they've been taken down temporarily.
That's accurate.
We have no access to the website now, or just?
Oh, no. To be clear, most of the documents are still there. All of the new documents we're trying to make as accessible as possible, and some of the old documents that were not accessible at all, we are converting to make them accessible. The idea is there are people in this community who have complained that that our website and some of the PDFs that were out there were not accessible for their screen readers and other devices that they use, and we'd like to make them as accessible as possible.
Great. Okay. Thank you for that information. Thank you, Commissioner Cavender.
While we're waiting on the older documents to be converted, if somebody wants them, they can simply contact the township and still receive them, even if they're not on the website, correct?
Yes.
Great. Okay. Then for anybody, for Ms. Conroy Smith, yes, sir. Please come forward.
Hi, my name's Michael Lee. I'm a township resident. Now, I'm assuming that the litigation that you guys were talking about earlier was the billboard that just about nobody in the township is aware of, that you're talking about putting at Parks Car Wash right on the intersection of Ward 1 and Ward 4. And the township has spent over 10 years telling you guys continually that they don't want billboards. So I'm wondering, when are you going to start talking to the township about billboards? This has a tremendously bad impact on Ward 1 and Ward 4. A lot of residents are going to see it. It's on businesses. It's Kindred Hospitals there. There's a child guidance clinic right on that site. There's a nursing home. There's a long-term rehabilitation center there. So my question is, when are you guys going to open up and include the public? This is a really difficult question. And it's not just for Ward 1 and Ward 4. It's for people who live along Township Line or other parts of Westchester Pike. The two sites that were proposed before on Lancaster Avenue. So we really need to have you guys step up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Anybody else in the left side who would like to speak? Over here on the right side, anybody would like to speak? Thank you all. We'll move on to the next item. New business. Do any of my colleagues have any new business for us? Hearing none, I will move to other business. Commissioner Gondik.
Thank you. A couple announcements. Westgate Hills Civic Association is having their annual Easter egg hunt on March 23rd. It starts at, I believe, 1 p.m. It's a obviously family-friendly event. Easter egg decorating, games, lots of stuff for the kids. Rumor has it that there'll be an appearance by the Easter Bunny. So I do encourage everyone to mark that in your calendar and try to be there. The Civic Association always has great events over at the park, and I have no reason to doubt that this one won't be just as good as all the others. Turning to the stadium, I would just want to let everyone know that the stadium and the Haverford Hawks are partnering once again as part of the Finland Exchange. Finland Exchange 2024 is actually a phenomenal program that the Hawks have been involved in for several years. I don't know exactly how long, but I know it's been several years where our players go over there, their players come over here, and it's a great cultural exchange for the players all around the game of hockey. And that event opening ceremonies are March 28th. I believe it's a 3-day tournament. So I do encourage people, if you have some time and you want to watch some good hockey, to head on over to the stadium during those events. Congratulations to Sacred Heart Varsity Girls Basketball Team. They just a few days ago won the 2023-2024 PA State CYO Championship. It's a heck of an accomplishment, and the girls and their supporters should be very, very proud of that. I guess keeping on the topic of sports, as we get later in the month, all of the, a lot of the softball, baseball leagues are going to start ramping up. I would just like to remind people that as the baseball and softball fields around the township start to get more and more crowded, be conscientious of the neighbors in those communities around those parks. Try not to block driveways, try not to park illegally. I know it's tough. There's a lot of our parks don't have the greatest parking, but just please be conscientious of the people who live there. And then I guess the last thing I would just simply want to remind people is, as was said in the beginning of the meeting, the focus group for the Safe Streets for Ward 1 is tomorrow, Tuesday, March 12th, and it's at Linwood School. And so I encourage anyone who would like to participate and be involved in the process to attend. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Gondek. Commissioner Forster-Grubb.
I'd like to also remind everyone in Ward 2 that our focus group will be March 13th, Wednesday, from 6 to 7 at Manoa Elementary School. And I hope that if you are available, you might come out and share your thoughts about traffic and safety here in the township. I'd also like to say that this is the first day of Ramadan, and I want to wish everyone observing the holiday a happy and joyful one. Then a small remark about Women's History Month. I teach Charlotte Bronte's novel Jane Eyre quite a bit, and the heroine makes a declaration of independence for women, and she says, quote, "Women are supposed to be very calm generally, but women feel just as much as men feel," end of quote. And this month, during Women's History Month, there was one woman who lived about the same time as Charlotte Bronte, who also felt strongly that women deserved equal rights with men, and her name was Lucretia Mott. She was born in 1793 and died in 1880, but she lived most of her life in Philadelphia, and she was a Quaker. She was also an abolitionist and a leader in the women's movement. She was also the very first woman to ever be nominated to be a candidate for vice president, even though at that point women did not have the right to vote. And this was during the 1848 National Convention of the Liberty Party, which was an abolitionist political party in the U.S. prior to the American Civil War. She was also one of 300 women who attended the first Women's Rights Convention held over 2 days in Seneca Falls in 1848. And at the conclusion of that meeting, there was an 11-point declaration written and signed affirming that women deserved equality, and the rights that men had. Since 1848, women have gained the right to vote and many more rights, and the fight for equal rights continues, so our daughters will have all the rights that they need to live fulfilling and enriching lives, so they may decide their fate just as much as men do. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Forster-Grubb. Commissioner McCloskey.
As Mr. Berman mentioned earlier, the streetscape improvements on Darby Road are almost complete. You can see the work going on there as part of Phase 3, and it's going to hopefully look as well as Phase 2 did. And we're continuing to slowly build up that area, and hopefully then we'll tackle some other parts of the Oakmont Business District. Reiterate, the Ward 3 focus group for the Safe Streets Studies is Tuesday, March 19th, 2024. Tentatively, currently going to be held at the Kelly Center right there on Eagle Road. I do encourage everyone to participate in this process. I certainly know that there are lots of opinions in Haverford Township, but also in Ward 3 specifically about safe streets, traffic, cars, pedestrians. So I'd encourage you all to make your voices heard in this process. And I say that sincerely, echoing off what Commissioner Gondek mentioned when we were voting on the ordinance earlier. I just, from a personal perspective, I had a lot of wonderful, terrific conversations with residents about the proposed vape shop ordinance, and they were constructive conversations, and they were respectful, and it was really it was an enjoyable process. And I thought the hearing that we had last week really showed part of the best of Havertown in the sense of that we had an overflowing room to have some respectful dialogue, but ultimately it just showed a community that cares passionately about the community that they live in, and that they are going to continue to live in and share with their neighbors. So I'd encourage us to take this that same sort of mentality into the Safe Streets study. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner McCluskey. Commissioner Cavender.
Thank you. I wanted to highlight for folks a new spring break program that Parks and Rec has just announced. It's called Buddy's Bonanza. It's taking place, spring break week this year is, at least in Haverford Township, is March 25th through the 29th. And this is a new program. It's a free program for neurodivergent kids, kids with autism, other special needs. We're paying for this project, for this program using ARPA funds. And one of the things that ARPA funds are designated for are groups that were impacted disproportionately by the pandemic. So as we're looking at all the different ways that the pandemic impacted our kids, the research has shown that neurodivergent kids, kids with special needs, fell even further behind in the pandemic. And so I just want to thank Parks and Rec for putting this together. It's from 9:30 to 12:30 at the CREC. I encourage everyone to spread the word. Parents can sign up. If we have a high response rate, it's possible that we'll look at doing something similar in the summer. And this is something that we do really well in Haverford Township. If you were here for the Parks and Recreation Open Space Plan, you heard about the distinctiveness of our programming that we offer for kids, and that has a ancillary effect on parents who need good childcare. During spring break, it helps to keep especially autistic kids with some kind of a schedule. It can be hard to find camps that accommodate for kids that do have special needs. And so I just want to applaud Parks and Rec for not only providing this enriching program for neurodivergent kids, but also affordable childcare for parents who need it. That's all I have. Our Ward 5's Safe Streets Project focus group is in April, so I'll be sending out more information on that. When I attended on Thursday, I guess it was, the first kickoff, I saw a lot of Ward 5 names in the virtual room, and so I want to thank everyone who participated. This is the Brynford traffic study helped to kick this off and sort of serve as a template of sorts, and I have, like other people have said, I'm really looking forward to seeing these results, and thank everybody for participating. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Cavender. Commissioner Quinn.
Okay, well, my word thing will be next month as well, so I will send stuff out as soon as we know time and place where that is. And also, I just wanted to wish everybody a happy St. Patrick's Day. And hopefully, if you're out this weekend, I know there'll be some bar crawls and stuff. So make sure you Uber home and take a bus or call a friend or walk. So I'll have a good week.
Thank you, Commissioner Quinn. Commissioner McCollum.
Yes, I'd just like to take this opportunity to publicly congratulate retiring Haverford Township Police Sergeant Larry Todd on a wonderful career. I hope he enjoys his retirement. And segue into congratulations for our newly hired Patrolman Patrick Marley Jr. The next thing I have is the Hilltop Civic Association is currently looking for someone to run their Easter egg hunt. It's an annual hunt that they do at usually at Steel Field. So if anybody's interested in that, they can look up Hilltop Civic Association, get in contact with them. The last thing I have is the Ward 9 Safe Street Study. That won't take place until April 6th. We're not sure if it's at Bonaire Firehouse or the American Legion Post 665, but there'll be more to come on that. That's all I have. Thank you.
Commissioner McCollum, since it inevitably will be you that runs the Easter egg hunt, let me remind you that the goal is for the children ultimately to find them. So, yeah. Commissioner Trombetta.
Mr. President, I only have one thing. You may recall that Haverford Township passed a resolution to use Federal American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA funds, to create an economic recovery payment program that puts $500 back into the pockets of our township's seniors, widows and widowers, and permanently disabled. To be eligible for this $500 economic recovery payment, residents of Haverford Township must first be approved through the Pennsylvania Property Tax and Rent Rebate Program. The deadline to apply to receive this economic recovery payment is April 1st, 2024. So let this serve as my final reminder to everyone watching and to those in the audience here tonight that they must submit their application as soon as possible to receive the payment. And that's all I have tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Trombetta. I only have a couple of things. One, I do want to thank everybody who came out this evening to speak on a variety of topics. And I want to thank everybody who came out last week to speak at our public hearing on our ordinance, as well as, while I did not attend, I know there was a great deal of public input at the Zoning Hearing Board this week. As far as tonight goes, Mr. Lee, you had asked a question and I didn't answer it. It was about the status of litigation that's before our board. We have been litigating the billboard issue for a decade. And it is still in litigation, and it is our duty as a board to, as parties to litigation, to both litigate the case and also, do whatever can be done to resolve it. When the time is appropriate for the board to discuss the next steps of the litigation, I can assure you that will happen. But as parties to litigation, we need to confine our communications with our counsel and with the court for now. But I do appreciate your comment, and we all understand the township-wide ramifications of any action, whether it's court action or whether the parties act in the billboard matter, and I appreciate your interest in it. And then finally, this obviously there was a great deal of concern and issue that was raised about the issue that is before the zoning board. It is not yet before this board, and so it is not yet appropriate for any of us on this board to discuss how we would act or how we would treat, whether it's an application or a ruling or something that comes from the zoning board. Does not mean we don't welcome the comments, but to the extent that I feel any frustration or hear or read any frustration on the parts of folks as to why the board isn't doing anything about this at this time, it is appropriately before the board, before the zoning hearing board. And the township's role in that, while limited, is a role the township is exercising in sending its solicitor to that hearing. And when it comes before us, it will be appropriately considered then. So just wanted to inform the public of that. And with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We are adjourned.